Hello everyone. I decided to do a tutorial on something that I've had to actually learn myself within the last year or so. Since I basically edit photos for a living, there's been occasions where I've had to edit people's portraits as minimally as possible, basically to avoid what many people would call the photoshopped look. And one of the main problems is sometimes I'll need to edit out things like freckles. As you can see, the image I have here in Photoshop is a very lovely woman, but she's got quite a number of freckles. Now, I can understand why people would want to leave freckles, and I have plenty of freckles all over. But let's say, for example, you're planning a particular project, maybe a character that you're creating, and this particular character has no freckles, but you like the way this person looks. So you have to compromise somehow. Either you find a different model or you edit the one you've got and work with what you've got. So with this particular image, I'm going to teach you how I tend to hide freckles. And we're not really removing them per se, we're just hiding them. The main thing you have to remember about photos in Photoshop is color is everything. If you have one color next to another, that's what's creating the illusion that something is there. Now what I'm going to do first is we're going to go to the zoom tool or the magnifying glass. We're going to click on it right here, and for the people who need to use the keyboard, it's the letter Z on your keyboard, and we're just going to click a few times and zoom in on her face. Let's move it up and zoom in. Now, as you can see, she's got quite a few freckles in different places, but notice what I was mentioning about color and how it stands out. If this particular freckle right here, let's say, this one right here, if this were the same color as what's next to it, it would disappear. And that was what I realized when I had to edit one person who had a bunch of freckles on their face. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our brush tool right here, and it is the letter B on your keyboard. You can also go to Window, Brush, and you have your brushes right here. Now I have it relatively large, so I'm just going to bring it down to maybe 15 or 16 is fine. As you can see, that's a pretty decent size. I might have to make it just a little bit smaller though. We're going to bring it down to 12. Hit enter, and we're good to go. See, that's a little bit better. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to hit the Alt button or Option on the keyboard, and what it does is it turns it into a eyedropper tool. We're going to select the color that's right next to it. Now what that does is, if you noticed, it changed the color over here on our color palette. We've got the foreground and background colors. It changed the foreground color to the color I selected on her face. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to move up to the opacity. We definitely don't need it at 100%. 10 or 11% is all we would need right now. What we're doing essentially is we're altering the color of the freckle to hide it. We're creating the illusion that the freckle was never there. And what this does is it involves a little more work than just brushing a lot of color over her face, but it avoids that photoshopped airbrushed look. So I don't want to paint on this layer itself. So I'm going to go over here to my layers. Excuse me. And we're going to go up here. We're going to hit new layer. Layer 1 is fine. And I'm just going to lightly paint right over. And as you can see, it's already starting to alter the color, but it needs to be a little lighter. Let's move over here to this area where it's a slightly lighter color. I'm going to hit the Alt key again so that I can get the eyedropper tool. I'm going to click and get that color. As you can see, the rotary tool here, which is funny because it took me quite a long time to realize that actually happened. But we're going to find a color that's much lighter. In fact, you could probably go over here and get like a nice, almost white peach color. Oops, sorry about that. Let's zoom back out. And we're going to go back to that freckle and just start painting over it again. As you can see, instantly that freckle is gone. Like I said, this is a lot more labor intensive, but it allows for you to maintain the integrity of, say, the pores in this area here. Rather than just taking, let's make a new layer as an example. Let's make a new layer. Layer 2 is fine. We're going to make it, the hardness we're going to bring down to 20% is fine. And just make it a big brush. If I were to just take this brush and start brushing over it, it starts to look fake. It really does. People's faces aren't butter smooth. They're not porcelain. People have pores. They have imperfections. If all you're looking to remove is the freckles, I've found this is the best way to do it because you maintain the integrity of features like this, like little wrinkles in the forehead. I'm going to hold the space bar so that I can get the hand tool and just move it down. Do you see these little lines here? I don't want to get rid of those. I want her to look realistic. But let's say my character doesn't have freckles, so I need to get rid of them somehow. I found this is the easiest way to do it. Let's work on another freckle to give you an idea of how this works. Let's go back up to our brush options here. Bring it down to 20, no, let's bring it down more. 14 pixels. Put the hardness at 100. And the opacity is 10, that's good. Let's say this one right here. It might be a little too light, but we'll give it a shot. See, it's making it way too light. So what we can do is just take our eraser. Oops. I'm going to change the size of the eraser down to about 25, and the opacity is 100, and just erase that. So this is an instance where I need to once again hit the Alt key to get the eyedropper tool. We'll select the color. We got the color right about there, and then just start painting over. And right away, that looks much more natural. We're not painting this huge swath of color that just makes her look like a porcelain doll. We're adding subtle touches that help to minimize the appearance of color differences in the skin. And that's what helps to make it much more natural. We're adding in colors that already exist in her skin color. For example, let's look at this area right here. Her freckles look fine because they are part of her skin, but they do look a little strange, especially since she's got this nice eye color going on at the moment. So if I wanted to get rid of this particular area, I would do the same thing. I would click with the eyedropper tool, holding down the Alt key, and just paint over it. As you can see, it's much more natural. It kind of just, it blends together. You don't have this look that you've clearly just taken a big brush and swept it over her face. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of clean up this portion of her face so we can compare it to what it looks like over here. So this portion I'm going to just speed it up real quick so we can get through it and you can see the end result when I'm done. Keep in mind that this method also works for any other kind of imperfection you want to remove from a person's skin. Whether it's on their face, arms, legs, it doesn't matter. This same method can be applied to anything that you think needs to be covered up. Okay, I felt this was a good place to stop. I could easily continue and zoom in to 600, 800, 1000% and go pixel by pixel, making sure that every single freckle was removed. But I think for the most part, this kind of illustrates the idea that I'm trying to get across to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the eye icon right here on the layer 1, and I'm just going to click it so you can get an idea of what it looked like before and how it looks after. And as you can see, the freckles are significantly reduced without making her look like a porcelain doll. Now, if that's what you're going for in your particular work of art, whether it's light skin or darker skin or medium toned skin, that's fine. Go for it. You know, if that's the look that you're going for, if you're looking for extremely smooth skin, by all means, go for that. But if you're working with a portrait that you want to try to keep as natural as possible and refrain from giving it that quote-unquote photoshopped look, I felt this is one of the best ways to do it because you're working with the pixels that are already existing within the photo to basically hide what's there. And as you can see, the comparison between this side and the other side, I think it's very drastic. I mean, she's got darker spots all over her cheek, all over her nose, and she's even got some dark spots like this one right here that go across her lips and across her eyebrow areas. And as you can see, this side is, I don't want to say cleaner because that's not the right word, but it's significantly different. You've got a very different look over here. You've got pretty much no freckles versus a lot of freckles. So that's basically it. If you have any questions or if anything was unclear, please feel free to leave a question in the comments section. If this tutorial helped you out, I'd love to hear that as well. Thank you so much for watching another one of my tutorials, and have a great night.